Hi guys, welcome to XtraTalk. We have two very special guests with us today to discuss Bassey, Rangers fan. And yeah, you can see they're a little bit sad already. We haven't started the conversation yet, but they're a little bit sad already because they know they sold Bassey to Ajax. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how they see it, what their opinion is of Bassey in general. But before we do, of course, a brief introduction. We're going to talk about who they are. Next to me, we have Mark. Mark, you are part of the Rangers Rabble podcast. That's it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's an up and coming podcast, and we just talk about all things Rangers. We've started doing live phone-ins as well, so we're branching into lots of different things. So it's quite exciting times.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea to start a podcast? And how did you become a Rangers fan? Maybe we should go way back for this one.
Way back. I mean, probably Wilf will agree with you that you don't become a Rangers fan. You're born a Rangers fan. It's as simple as that. It's something that's in the blood and it's in the family. There's no escaping it. It's just. It is what it is. You come into a family, you grow up. Probably before you can walk, you are wearing a Rangers top. You have a Rangers scarf. So, as I said, becoming a fan is a lot of times it's not an option. It's just in your blood. It's something that's that you grow up with. Simple as that.
Okay, it's very simple indeed. So, how about the podcast? How did you come up with that idea? Did you start it on your own, or do you do it with a couple of other people?
Yeah, so it's actually one of our close friends, Martin. He's the main man. He's the brains behind it. It's his brainchild. So Martin started it about a year and a half ago now, maybe 2 years ago now.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just grown and grown and grown for there. So there's a group of us. There's, I would say, probably a core of maybe close to 10. I would think that do it. We rotate. Hosts, we rotate who's on the pod because we do like pre-match, post-match. We do phone in on a Monday, phone in on a Friday. So I mean, there's a lot of content there from the Rabble. So we really do need to kind of rotate. And so there's a core group of us, but it's Martin. It's Martin's baby. He says he has brainchild, and it's just getting bigger and bigger from here.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I have that a little bit with our channel, do you feel like it takes more time than you thought it would, but at the same time it gives you energy to do it?
Yeah. It consumes you sometimes. For some of the guys, we're rushing home from work and we're trying to. I've done podcasts. I work offshore and I'm doing podcasts from an oil rig in the middle of the North Sea. So that's how much it consumes everything we do. But the problem is that a lot of us as well love to go to the football, so it's a juggling act as well to try and get everybody in and obviously put on a good program, a good pod, and with good contents as well. So it's not easy.
Very good, very good. Wilf, welcome.
Thank you.
Rangers fan as well.
Absolutely.
What's your story? Is the same? Born as a Rangers fan? We can just stop talking about it.
Yeah, Rangers fans. I firmly believe that Rangers fans were born, we're not manufactured. You don't choose to be a Rangers fan. You're just born into it. My father not interested in football at all. My grandfather was a Rangers fan. There's only one thing I was ever going to be is a Rangers fan. And as Mark says, it's just something that you're born into. I mean, I've got 3 daughters, and they've all been to see Rangers in their younger years. My oldest 2, no interest in football, and that's fine. Okay. My youngest one, she's 19, and she's absolutely Rangers daft. Perfect. Because you're just born into it. Yeah. Some people, some children take to it. Other children, football's not their thing.
Yeah.
My 2 oldest daughters, football's not their thing. My youngest one, as I say, absolutely obsessed with Rangers.
It's funny how it goes, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even to the extent that she watches my podcasts, which is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Very good. You guys know each other, by the way, just to be clear?
Yes, we're both involved in the Rangers Rabble, yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. Wilf, I'm going to start with you about Bassey. I mean, this is what all Ajax fans wants to know. especially from your side, because you have seen him play for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So let's start from the beginning. So before I start, when you guys got him from Leicester, under 21, let's go with what happened just now in the summer. Ajax got him. Ajax signed him. What was your feeling once everything was concluded? Just your emotion, but also rationally. Do you think it was the right move for him? Because I saw a couple of Rangers fans saying he's too good for the Eredivisie. What's your thoughts on that?
I think, obviously, we're very, very sad to see him go. I mean, he's a tremendous football player. You've got an absolute gem there. You've stole him off us for the money you paid. You know, absolutely stole. I mean, he's our highest ever transfer out, and you've absolutely stole him off us. I think from his career development point of view, Ajax is the perfect club for him, because the Ajax model is to bring in players like Calvin Bassey, early 20s, develop them on, and you've got a history of moving players on. Then Ajax, from my knowledge of them, which isn't great, I think have a habit of, you don't particularly spend a lot of money on players. I think Calvin Bassey is your second highest ever transfer in.
Yeah,
I might be right in saying
third.
that. Third. So Ajax aren't a Bayern Munich or a Man United or spending 50, 60, 70 million on players. But they'll bring in somebody like Bassey for 23, 24 million euros. Have him for a couple of years. You'll be looking to move him on probably 2 or 3 years down the line for maybe 50 or 60, doubling your money on him. And you'll have developed him in the meantime, because he'll be playing, I would imagine he'll be playing regularly for you. Now, had he gone to the English Premiership, there's a very good chance he would probably have made more money for himself.
Sure.
But I don't think he'd been playing regularly and not playing the brand of football that I think he wants to play. So from his point of view, I think it's a terrific move. And Ajax have got an absolute steal.
Good. Mark, do you agree with Wilf on this one, or do you have a bit of different opinion?
No, I think 100% agree with you. I think my initial emotion was sadness. I think that the boys come on so much in the last couple of years. Progression in the game has been phenomenal. It was looking like it could have been a player for Rangers and a top player for Rangers for years to come. But sadly, it wasn't to be. I think that if you look at the bigger picture, it's a great move for the boy. And I think the type of player he is, the type of person he is, I think that he's thought about this long and hard. Like Wilf said, he could have been down south, he could have went to England and tripled, quadrupled his money. He could have been an instant millionaire going to England. But do you go to England and no fight for titles? You go to England, you're not fighting for cups. So I think that he's got the bug at Rangers. He's got the bug of that pressure of having to win. You must win at Rangers every single week, no matter who you're playing. You must be challenging for titles, cups, and you must be doing well in Europe. And that kind of seeps into a player. I think some players just instantly get that. And I think that he was craving that. I think that his move, he looked at it and he thought that if he goes to a bottom 8 downwards in the English league, he's not going to get that.
Yeah.
A draw's okay. Sometimes a defeat's okay. He's not got that pressure. And I think at Rangers, he thrived on that pressure. So okay. I think it's a great move for him. I think he's sat down and he's thought about it. And he's thought, right, my career, how do I progress as a player rather than where do I get the most money? So for me, that's a measure of the boy.
Good. You touched upon it a little bit, and I want to dive a little bit deeper on this because, as I said earlier in the podcast, that you guys got him when he was just under 21 with Leicester. That was like 2 years ago. And when he came to Rangers, do you remember the first couple of games that he played? What kind of player was he back then? And can you take us a little bit, and I will also come to Wilf about that, to his development? I mean, at what point did you guys think, wow, we got a gem on our hands here?
Well, Rangers have got a knack because of Brexit and stuff like that. Now we can get players for what they call a development fee. So if it goes cross-border, i.e. from England to Scotland, we can get him for a nominal fee. Whereas if he moved to another English club, they would have to give somewhere in the 7 figures mark for him. So I think we got him, Wilf, maybe correct me, it was about 200,000, 250,000.
Yeah, 230 grand, I think it was, yeah.
So, I mean, we paid a nominal fee for this boy. And he hadn't played in the first team in Leicester. So when he came up to Rangers, you could see straight away, I mean, he's a big physical specimen. He's a really, really big guy. And for somebody so young, he was 20, I think, when he came to us.
Yeah.
Big lad, really big lad, physical specimen. But properly unknown. We did not know anything about this boy. This boy's obviously been through the scouting system. So we've took advantage of this a couple of times recently, this development fee thing. But we brought him in for that kind of money. It's a no-brainer because it's not that great a risk. He's probably on wages-wise not that great amount of money for wages. So it's not a big risk at all to do this and bring these young boys in and see if they develop. When he come in, you could see it was very raw. I think probably lacked a wee bit of the final ball, but power and pace, I mean, phenomenal. I've never seen anybody that big run so quickly. So, I mean, just as I said, first impressions was big, strong, powerful boy, and hopefully we can kind of finesse that a bit and try and kind of coach a wee bit more out of him. So, first impressions, just a big lad that was an athlete, proper athlete.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
That's one. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
That's 100% right. That's exactly how he looked. I mean, my only concerns in the first sort of few games that I saw him was we had him playing at left back, and defensively he didn't seem the best. He was great going forward because he's a big specimen. He was quick. He was rolling folk out the way. But for me, the issue I had was for a big lad, he wasn't very good in the air. Heading the ball wasn't his thing. He really wasn't great at it. And then we had the occasion quite early on, we had to move him to centre-back because the centre-back went off injured. We had to put him to left centre-back. Your centre-half has to be able to head the ball. And at that time, Calvin wasn't great. Don't get me wrong, he could head it, but his timing wasn't great for me, going to the ball. But, I mean, he learned very, very quickly. Obviously, they coached it into him, and he's phenomenal at it now. But from the first impression, the only thing I thought about him was if he's a defender, he's going to have to learn how to head the ball. But as Mark says, for 230,000 Great British pounds, which about 300,000 euros ish, no brainer. Brought him in from Leicester's under 23s. He'd actually played against us. Our youth team played Leicester under 23s. I think that was when they first saw him, and we took advantage of this cross-border thing, brought him in.
Yeah.
His career nearly stalled before it started because he was involved in a COVID breach during the lockdowns, which the way the media report Rangers in Scotland, you would think he'd been out running about the streets and doing all sorts of things because they report us completely different. I don't know if the Dutch press give Ajax a hard time because they're the biggest club in the country as opposed to everybody else. We get a real hard time from the Scottish press.
Yeah. Usually the big teams always do.
Yeah, well, I mean the way they reported that him and Calvin and four of his young teammates went to a party and they had this. What actually happened was they all lived in the same building in different flats, and them and the boys and their girlfriends went to one specific player's flat to watch motor racing or tennis or something. They were watching another sport. They ordered in pizzas, and obviously they shouldn't have been in there. That was contrary to lockdown rules because they should have been in their own flats, despite the fact they were in their own building. So obviously there was calls then to throw him out of the club because of what he'd done. It was a big COVID breach. It was massive at the time. Another one of the 5 players involved was Nathan Patterson, who before we sold Calvin, we sold Nathan in the January window to Everton for a fee reputed to be around £16 million. So I mean, if we had done what a lot of people wanted us to do at that time and just thrown him out of the club, we'd have cost Rangers £40 million. Yeah. This is before either of the players that did any breakthrough. So that was when Calvin Bassey really first came to the consciousness of quite a lot of people in Scotland, because that was headline news.
Yeah.
He was on the fringes of the first team at the time, but that really brought him into the sort of public conscious.
So who made the decision at the end? Was it the coach that defended him, or was it because it was Steven Gerrard at the time?
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
Okay.
No, Steve, the club defended them because, as I say, the way it was reported, you would have thought that they'd all gone out to a nightclub. They'd actually gone around to a teammate's flat, to watch a TV and have a pizza. So I mean, the club stuck by them. They all got 6 game bans with 2 games suspended, something like that.
Wow.
And they took their punishment, and we just got on with it. But it shows the mark of him as well, because a lot of young players would just have went, well, I don't want to be here because this is the way I'm getting treated. But
this is very interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely. This is very interesting. You guys are touching a little bit also on a question that I had prepared for you guys, and this is more the mentality of Bassey in general, because this I didn't know. So he went already through something quite, like mentally it can break you a little bit. But also looking at his past beyond that, before he became a football player, he also mentioned a couple of times in the interview now already that he was thinking about the summer, giving everything just to make it one more time, or else he would stop playing football, and just focusing on school because he was being pressured. But not only that, also the interview with Ajax, he was saying like, I could have gone to an English Premier League club. I could have earned more money. It would have been easier culture-wise, language-wise, all these kind of things. But it didn't outweigh the feeling I had to play for Ajax. Is this a little bit his trademark? Is this how you characterize Calvin Bassey in general, Wilf?
Yeah, I think he knows his own mind, and he knows what he wants, and he's prepared to work hard to get to where he wants to be. And I think he knows what's best for him. He doesn't chase the pounds. He's not driven by money. He wants, as Mark said, he wants to win things. He wants to be at successful clubs. He wants to make a name for himself the right way. He doesn't want to be a player who has got his grandkid sitting on his knee in 40 years' time saying, look at the size of my bank balance. And the grandkids go, well, let me see your medals. And he goes, well, I don't have any. But look at the size of my bank balance. He wants to actually win things. He's got a taste of winning stuff. Yeah. He's won the league with Rangers. He was man of the match in the Scottish Cup final for us before he left. He was man of the match in the Europa League final for us, which unfortunately we didn't win. But that's the level that he wants, which is why he's come to a club like Ajax, because Ajax, they're always challenging for the Eredivisie, for the Dutch Cup. They're challenging in Europe, and that's, to me, he wants to put himself under that sort of pressure. That's just the mentality of the lad.
Absolutely. Perfect. I mean, I love it, honestly. It takes some time to see new players come in and play for Ajax. But one of the things I always like to hear, and sometimes it's just, the ordinary things that they say, all players say a little bit the same, media training, etc. But for him, I had a different feeling. I have a feeling like he knows what it is to struggle. He knows what it is to go through not always go and choose the easy route, but really struggle to accomplish your goals. And this is the feeling I got from him. Mark, a question, right? We talked a little bit, but not entirely, about the development. Just for the viewers to understand, when he was bought and Steven Gerrard was the coach at the time, he used him mostly as a fullback, right? At what point did he become more also a central defender?
I think it was kind of by default that he became a central defender. And he played a European game. Who was against Wilf? Was it? So we were struggling for a centre half, and he come in and he played centre half, and Wilf will agree with me. And this shows you that he had an absolute nightmare. Yeah. I really did. It was terrible at centre half, to the point where positionally he was all over the place.
Was this still with Steven Gerrard as a coach, or was it later? Okay.
Yeah, no, Steven Gerrard as coach, but I think they kind of get flung into it, and it was a little bit in the deep end. I think that the only time he'd ever really played centre half a bit in the youth ranks at Leicester, and he kind of get flung into the centre half spot because we just never had anybody else to play there. Something like that, with one fit centre half, and to show you the measure of the boy, he went on from that, which everybody to a man, Wilf will probably agree with me, every Rangers fan was like, wow, he's never a centre half. He's We don't want him anywhere near being a centre half. And within the space of maybe 4 weeks, it showed you the progression of him. And it became...
What exactly stood out after 4 weeks for you? What did he improve?
I think that it showed that his willingness to learn. So you can tell that behind the scenes, it was obviously getting took aside by the coaching team and our other centre half, Connor Goldson, who has started to coach him, talk him through positionally, how he's meant to play, when to go, when to stay. So I think that in that kind of 4 week period, I think he got a kind of a crash course in being a centre half, and it shows the measure of the boy that he eventually became probably a standout at centre half from that. Come to the end of the season, as Wilf said, he was centre half in the Europa League final, and it was the best player in the park by a fair bit. So, I mean, that just shows you how much he's willing to learn and how the boy can progress as long as he's coached properly. So, as I said, but at the start of the season, he was a bit part player. He was not a first team regular at all. So we knew what he was capable of. He had a few good cameos at left back, and as I said, by default and by accident, really, he became a centre half, and he's just went on from that point. He had one bad game, and then he went on from strength to strength to strength in that position. But also during that period as well, he still moved to left back at some points as well. So he wasn't just constantly playing centre half. He was still playing left back at the odd game as well. So, but as I said, if you coach this boy properly, this boy's desire to learn and progress and get better is something phenomenal. As I said, in the space of probably 6-8 months, he's went from being a young boy trying to learn his trade, trying to get game time, to being probably the first name in the team sheet.
Well, he went from a bit part player, as Mark says, to our young player of the year. He won the young player of the year, and at the start of 8 months before that, as Mark says, he wasn't even in the team. He wasn't even a regular in the team. And to pick up on the point of he's a quick learner. There was a game we played against our friends from across the city, and he was involved in a clash with one of them, and he kind of bent down to check he was okay, and our midfielder John Lundstrom said something to him. It looked something along the lines of, just leave him lying there and walk away, and he walked away. And the next time it happened, he just looked at the guy lying there, growled at him, and walked away. So he's very, very quick to learn. He's told to do something, he'll do it.
It's interesting. Let me throw something at you guys, because this is very interesting. So far, all the things I've read from Bassey, physical, speed, these kind of things, and he has those. I know, and you said it also. But now, talking to you guys, I think maybe his biggest asset or his biggest strength is maybe how fast he learns and how fast he can develop as a player. Is that basically his biggest? Is that even more than his physical trait and his speed? Would you say?
I think so. Yes, because you can see that he's a big physical specimen. I mean, we bought him we got him from Leicester, and he was already developed as a player. He was already, as Mark said, a really big fit guy who was really quick. But he has learned, as we said, he came in at centre half and he had an absolute nightmare. He couldn't head the ball. His positional sense was all over the place. Within, as Mark says, 3 or 4 weeks, they'd obviously told him what he had to do, how to play the position. He ended up Young Player of the Year. He ended up going to Ajax for a lot of money. That doesn't happen by accident. No. That happens because there's an old saying in the UK: you can take a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can tell him, you can teach him everything. You can stand in front of you for hours and say, "This is what you have to do," and he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah,
but he's obviously done it because he's come on the leaps and bounds. I mean, for me, the other good thing about him is he's so jovial. He's always so happy. He's always got a smile on his face. Yeah. And every time he's asked, when he was at Rangers, every time he was asked, do you prefer playing centre half or do you prefer playing left back? He always gave the same answer. I don't care where I play as long as I'm playing.
He's humble as well. He's humble a little. He's also humble. Yeah. Question. Somebody asked me this to ask you guys, basically, to bring it in. I haven't seen him play that, but maybe he did. They did try out with him, but did he play ever? Did he play as a defensive midfielder? Because that's a little bit of an issue at Ajax at the moment. Can he play that? What do you think?
For me, I don't. I think he could probably fill in the odd game. I don't think he's got the range of passing quite yet to play that role. I think if you're putting him in, if you're setting up tactically for him just to break up play and to move the ball on, then yeah. But if you're playing the defensive mid as a kind of a quarterback, then I don't think he's got the range of passing just yet. I think that's he can improve in that. I think he has improved. He improved at Rangers in his passing and his distribution. But for me, how I like a defensive midfielder to play, I think he needs to have that physicality, obviously, but I think he needs to have a decent range of passing as well.
Yeah.
I think that if you're just going to play him as a sort of a destroyer in there, then possibly if you're playing like a Barcelona or a Juve then yeah, I think that would work definitely, because he's definitely got the physicality. But for me, at the moment, I think no. I don't. For me, no. I don't think he would be able to.
Okay.
No,
Well,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think he's the type of player, as we said, he'll play anywhere and he learns quickly. So
Yeah.
if you wanted him to play a specific role in a specific game, in front of the defence as a kind of defensive mid, if you said, Calvin, this is what we want you to do. We want you to stand there, stop that player, stop do that. He would do it, and he would do it to the best of his ability. And I think he'd be good at it. But I don't think you could build your season on him doing that.
Yeah.
The other thing, if you're using them there, you're losing them in defence.
Understood. No, that's clear. Understood. One question to both of you. What do you think at this point, because he's a quick learner and he can still develop, he's still young, we know all this. This is very clear now. But where do you feel he played his best at Rangers, and where do you feel he can be best at Ajax? Is it as a left back or is it as a center back? Who wants to go first? It's a tricky one, I know.
Well, I'll go first. For me, it's probably the biggest argument that all Rangers fans have had. It's one of these ones where everybody's somebody you can ask 50 people and 25 of them will say one, 25 will say the other, because he is that good, and he is that good at the two different positions, and he brings something different, which is quite strange for a player to be so good at two different positions, which are quite different as it goes in the park technically. So I like him going forward as a left back. I think that the power and pace, he almost runs over the top of players. It's almost like a juggernaut trying to somebody try to stop him, but it also brings that physicality to the centre half position, and we played him as he was first point of contact, so he would press, and he would press hard, and he would press fast, and he would keep tight to his player. And if the ball went in behind, he had the pace to go and get that. So and to recover the ball for that. So I know we've just been running a circle, but it is very difficult to say what his best position is. He has slight weaknesses in both positions, but like we've said, he's still very young. He's got bags of potential, and there's definitely potential and space for him to improve even a lot more than he has just now. So it's a very, very hard question you've asked me, and
I know, because also the Europa League final, right? He's played as a centre back, and people said this might have been one of his best performances at Rangers. Do you agree, or did he have also more of these type of plays, Wilf?
No, it was certainly one of his better performances. He played well the following Saturday in the Scottish Cup final as well. As I said earlier, he was man of the match in that. My only concern, if you use him as a centre back, is he does like to attack. He does like to get forward, and that can leave you. That, depending on who you're playing and how you're set up, that could leave you a bit exposed. Because even when he was at centre back for us, he did like to charge through. Now in the Scottish League, you'll get away with that because we play against a lot of teams that don't even try and attack us. You know, I would imagine Ajax will get a bit of that, but there's more teams of a level in Holland than there is in Scotland. So they would probably need to not so much coach that out of him, but just remind him when he's playing at centre half, look, make sure there's somebody going to cover you if you're going to go out and charge about like your Franz Beckenbauer.
Yeah. Do you feel like if we play him as a centre back, we're holding a little bit some of his ability back? Maybe he can develop some others, but that what you're saying, you know, going forward and stuff will be restricted.
Yeah, I think so, depending on how you're playing. I mean, if you're playing in a game where Ajax are going to be on the front foot all the time, and your whole defence is going to be attacking, then fantastic, because he's not one of these defenders that will go on a mad run with the ball. The move will break down, he'll lose the ball, and then he'll just stop. He'll always come back into position, get back to where he's supposed to be, whether he's at centre half or whether he's at fullback. So there's no worries on that score. It would concern me a bit if you were saying that all he's doing is playing as a centre back. It would concern me that sometimes he might just leave you a wee bit exposed at the back.
Yeah. Wilf, you guys mentioned earlier, I want to touch a little bit more on his development instead. I mean, we talked about his strength, right? I want to talk a little bit more about things he has to develop still, or things he can improve. You guys mentioned in the beginning his heading was not that good, but he improved already a couple of, notches on that. What else does he need to improve, you think? Especially now, you guys know how we play. We like to distribute the ball from the back. We like to break the lines and these kind of things from our defenders already. Is that the main thing he has to improve still, you think? Or are there other traits or skills he has to improve?
No, as Mark said earlier, the main thing he would need to improve to be a huge success at Ajax is his distribution. His distribution sometimes isn't the best. He needs to learn that, but it's not the sort of game he's been playing. You know, I mean, and
are we talking about short distribution and long, or both?
Both.
Both of them.
We've never really seen him trying to sort of throw a long ball 40, 50 yards, because when Rangers defence is like Connor Goldson, his central defensive partner, that's Connor's game. He throws long balls up the park, so Calvin didn't have to do that. You know, so if that was what Ajax were wanting him to do, that's something you need to learn. But if what we've seen is anything to go by, as I said, as we touched on, his heading wasn't great. He's a great header of a ball now because he's learned. He's been told. His positional sense wasn't great. He was taught how to do that, and his positional sense is good now. So I would imagine if somebody takes him aside and says, "Look, this is what we want you to do: pinging long balls, little wee short passes," I think he'll take to it. Absolutely no problem. I think he'll be a fantastic student, and he'll be up to speed in no time at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. Mark, you can react on that, but I also want to add something else.
I think probably Wilf's kind of said most of it. From probably the left back position, I think that really the only thing that he did need to improve on was his crossing, was his final ball, and it did improve. It did from when he first came in to when he left. His crossing got a lot better. I think there's still room for that to improve as well, and I think he will improve at that. But as I said, his crossing from the left back position was, when he first came in, not great at all.
Yeah, sometimes we play. I mean, the Ajax way is we play a high line, right?
Yeah.
Is this perfect for Bassey if we use him as a centre back, because he can defend one-on-one and back and just get the ball back?
So that's the way Rangers played. The Rangers played with a very high line, because we play against a low block every single week. There's only one other team in the league that will come and have a go at us and play.
You're not going to mention the name.
We're not mentioning names. No, we don't mention their name.
I know. Okay.
So we are constantly playing with a very, very high line at the back. As I say, you're playing against that low block, so sometimes it's almost 2 backs of 5 we're playing against. So that, you obviously, when you're playing that, your 2 centre halves need to start a lot of this. So if you're playing that same kind of man for man high line, then that's tailor made for Bassey, because he's got the pace to recover. If the ball gets played over the top, then Bassey's your man for that, because he's. I don't think there's many will beat him in a foot race, which is kind of strange because he's such a big lad that he's so quick. But as I said, that's our two centre halves start moves. We start the attack from our defence, and I would think that Ajax are probably that's how you play as well. You like to start attack almost from your centre halves. So it's tailor made for him, I think. Really. Well, even whether he's playing at left back as well, because our wing backs are always high. Our top goal scorer over the last 3 or 4 seasons has been our right back. So that's our two left back and right back are always almost like wingers. So that's
very attacking, actually.
Yeah. So Bassey's been used to going man to man and being almost the last line of defence. Because generally we get long balls over the top or try and play balls through the channels. So you're going to need somebody that's quick when you're playing that high line. But I think it's tailor made for him.
I have a few other questions, right? Very briefly. You guys can both answer these. Did you always play with a 4-back line when Bassey was at Rangers, or did you guys sometimes switch to a 3-back line with much more the wing backs pushing a bit more forward?
It was always generally a 4, but the wing backs push forward anyway, because as Mark says, the teams that generally play us in Scotland don't try to attack us to any degree, so you can push your full-backs up. I mean, James Tavernier, our right back, is, as Mark said there, he's been our top goal scorer, top assist maker. I mean, he was the top goal scorer in the Europa League last year just because of the way that we play, and he's a right back. I mean, he scored the guts of 100 goals from 350 appearances. For a right back, that's not bad going.
I think somebody said the stat last night. It was he's been goal contribution is 149 goal contributions, either scoring or assisting, and he's 1 behind Kevin De Bruyne.
Wow,
so there's a stat for a right back.
But then we have to use him more as a fullback, I think. But let's see what the coach and the staff has in plan are going to plan with him. A couple of other things. Wilf, you mentioned, and also Mark, you mentioned about his distribution. This is something he has to learn, maybe improve a little bit better, especially at Ajax. Let's see how that goes. The heading, you guys said he improved. I want to make a distinction between defensive headers and attacking headers. Is that the same, or is he better at one than the other?
We never really seen him in a sort of attacking headers, because he wasn't really, if we had an attacking set piece, it tended to be Conor Golson was the target, which mystifies me because he's worse at heading the ball than Calvin is. But his defensive heading certainly come on in leaps and bounds. I mean, he's a big old unit, and he'll get the ball away. But he's the type of player he doesn't try and just head it anywhere to get it away. He'll try and find somebody with it. He'll try and always find his man with it, which is good if you're trying to get on the counter attack.
Yeah. For me, I think that probably the main thing, and to be fair, I think we're being a wee bit overcritical regarding his heading and his distribution. But I mean, that is, if we're talking about his weakness, that is probably his weakness. And I think that being at a club like Ajax, which is the home of the total football and stuff like that, I think probably that's one of the reasons he went there, because he knows that will his technical ability will grow when he goes there, because he's like to pass and move. So I think that's something that, as I said, we're being slightly overcritical, but I think that's something that he's went there with a view to improving, because you will improve him, because that's how he's play. So I think that's something that in due course it will just get better and better and better as he goes. But as I said, his heading is, I mean, the modern game is very rarely you get a big ugly centre half that all he does is head on the ball anyway. So as I said, for me, it's not that big a deal. But as I said, his distribution, short and long, short not too bad at all. Long distribution, I think. But as I said, he's in the right place. He's probably, for me, he's the best club. He's the best club in Europe for learning short passing and moving. So I think that's part and parcel of the reason why he's picked us as a club to go to.
I mean, the heading for me, the the heading abilities come on a great deal since he got his positional sense sorted out at the back. You know, because when he was out of position, he was starting from the wrong place to jump for a header, and it just looked awkward and clumsy. But as we said earlier, within about 3 or 4 weeks of his kind of early games for Rangers, they sorted out his positional sense at the back, and his heading seemed to get a lot better very quickly after that. So, you know, if you look at that, you've got to think, well, it's because he was starting in the wrong place. So he probably could always head the ball. He was just starting in the wrong place, so it looked a wee bit sort of clumsy. So you see, they sort of both sorted themselves out at the same time. But it is, as Mark says, it's really just the passing that sort that out, and the world's his oyster.
I know we've touched about this, and I want to just summarize everything that we've just discussed also for our viewers. Are you guys saying, and I know this is not an objective channel, we're fans, we have our own choices, we have our own statements and all these kind of things, but do you feel, even with the improvement that he has experienced with you guys and now coming to Ajax, he still has massive untapped potential that he can unlock?
Yeah, massively.
100%.
Massively, yeah.
Do you guys see him ending? I mean, if everything goes well, of course, you never know, but he is, in a couple of years, you can see him play for the elite clubs in Europe.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I can see you improving him to the point where I would think he's worth at least double your money.
Yeah, I mean, what sums it up? What sums it up for me is when Ajax signed him, and you know, they disclosed the actual workings of the transfer fee, the whole mechanism with all the add-ons and things. Every single person that I saw speaking about it, be it on social media or friends of mine or whatever, every single one of them said, well, we're looking for a bit more up front. We were looking for 25 million up front. We didn't get that. But those add-ons are achievable. Those add-ons will be achieved. We've got a sell-on clause, which will make us an absolute fortune. So every single person from the Rangers side that I've heard comment on the transfer and the size of the transfer fee, although disappointed with the initial lump sum of the fee, every single person's went, those add-ons are achievable. Those add-ons will happen. He will get sold for big money, so it will be the biggest transfer fee Scotland's ever seen. So that tells you that everybody thinks he's got potential to learn at Ajax, to be a success at Ajax, and ultimately ends up at one of the blue ribbon clubs.
Yeah, I mean, look, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I'll caveat that it is not the finished article. So you're not buying the finished article. Yeah. And I think that if he's given a wee bit of patience, this boy has got something special. I really, really believe that. I think that most Rangers fans believe that as well. We've seen it. And he's got all the physical attributes to be a top player. He's still young. He's 22-year-old. So, I mean, as I said, you're not buying, although you've paid a lot of money for him, he is not the finished article. And I think that obviously your coaching staff and your scouting staff have seen that in him. Hence the reason why you've spent that kind of money. Because you don't really spend that kind of money in it unless it is a finished article.
True.
But as I said, this boy has got something special moving forward. He will go 100%. I've got every faith that he will go to one of these blue ribbon clubs. And my comment as well, we spoke about it obviously in our pod as well, and my comment was that the fact that he goes to Ajax as well, all the big clubs look at Ajax. They always look to Ajax because they know what kind of product you bring. They know that youth, some of the youth that has come through Ajax is phenomenal. Some of the best in the world. So your likes of your Barcelonas are constantly looking at you, your Man Uniteds, your Real Madrids. So, and I think that's another thing that he was thinking when he went to Ajax. He thought to himself, well, I can go here and get a good education, but also I can put myself in a shop window rather than going to a Southampton or a Brentford. That Barcelona aren't scouting Brentford. Do you know what I mean? So, in all seriousness, they're not. So, I think that when you think about it, if I was a player and I had an opportunity to go to a club such as Ajax and think to myself, well, for my career, I can improve massively as a player under that sort of a coaching and that sort of a club ethos, that I can progress myself and my game and also at the same time get to catch the eye of some of the top clubs in the world, like you said, blue ribbon clubs. So, as I said, obviously the young lad's head is, as we say, his head screwed on. He's down to earth. He's humble, and he's thought this through. He's not just jumped and went, right, we'll go to the first club that offers us. He's thought about this, properly thought about it, because at the start of the window, he didn't want to leave Rangers at all. So he came out and publicly said he didn't want to go. So, and obviously he sat down and thought about it, and it's progressed. So I think he's made a great move, and I think Ajax have made a great signing. I think it's a for me, it's a marriage made in heaven for you guys.
Perfect. Wilf, you agree as well, right? I mean, so you're saying not to be nice on our channel or to our viewers, but you guys honestly believe this deal was a great deal.
100%. I think it's, as Mark said, it's a great. Ajax have got themselves an absolute bargain. It's a great deal for Ajax, because it's a great deal for Calvin Bassey, because I mean, as we've said earlier on, Mark's just said there, he did think long and hard. He did choose to go somewhere where he can learn, where there'll be eyes on him, where he'll also be challenging to win stuff at a top level. You know, where he's going to play with really good players, be coached properly, and we're sad to see him go, but we know he had to go. You know, we can't turn down the sort of money that Ajax were offering. We just can't. But he also decided to go where was best for Calvin Bassey, and he's an absolute phenomenal player. He's not the finished article. He will learn at Ajax. I think it's a great club for him to learn that. So much so that much as I want to visit Amsterdam and come to the Amsterdam Arena in the Champions League, I don't want to play against Calvin Bassey. So, you know, it's one of those, love to draw you in Europe, but we don't want to have to face him because we know how good he is.
Yeah, touching upon that, by the way, congratulations on your win this week. Very important. So you guys are going to face PSV. So needless to say, we're going to support you, all of us. And hopefully we'll see you. Hopefully, who knows? We'll play you guys in the Champions League. It was an absolute privilege to have you both on the channel. Again, your podcast is called The Rangers Rebel for all viewers. Yep. We'll put the link in the description below. Mark, Wilf, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.